Okay, I'll just kick off the meeting if that's okay. Welcome everyone. This is a special districts election canvass. The County Commission acts as a canvassing board. It's May 21st, 2024, 1 p.m. in the afternoon, room 309. And what we'll do just to start things off is, for the record, we'll go around and introduce ourselves. Andy Hunthausen. I'll introduce the canvassing board first, or let them introduce themselves. Go ahead.
I'm Candace Payne.
Tom Rawl.
And we'll just go around.
Amy Reeves, Lewis and Clark County Election Administrator.
Connor Fitzpatrick, Lewis and Clark County Elections Division Supervisor.
Darcy Jakichak, Lewis and Clark County Elections Clerk.
And Nadine McCarty is here taking care of us today. Thank you, Nadine. Appreciate the work. And then we have 3 members of the public in the room, please.
Max Eskelson.
Ellen Almy Eskelson.
Richard Edward Grady.
Thank you very much. Welcome, by the way. Nice to have you here today. And Amy, I'll turn it over to you and Connor, and we'll follow your lead.
Great. So at this canvass today, we will present the total number of electors voting in each district in the county and the total number of votes in the county, the name of each individual receiving votes and the office for which they were received, the total votes by district for each individual, the total votes in the county for each individual, the total number of electors voting in each district. This information is provided in the format of the 2024 School and Special District Election Canvass Report, which details the number of registered voters, number of votes cast, the number of ballots counted, as well as the election results reported from our tabulation equipment. After reviewing the information presented by the Elections Department, the Commission may review any documents or ask any questions. The Commission may then certify the results of the election. After that point, we'll have public comment. Right, and I'll just go ahead and start. Usually when we start the canvass, we like to explain the process so that everyone's understanding the process. So the first part of our, the handouts that I handed out to you, this is an Excel spreadsheet that we do that takes our election database, compares it to what we physically did for our affirmation envelopes, our secrecy envelopes. Our judges are recording every step of the way, the number of ballots they've counted or envelopes they've counted. So that's the other part of it. And then the last part is our actual tabulation equipment, running the ballots through the tabulator. So we'll go over that. The other side of it is you have this report here. This is from our tabulation machines. During this school election, we used 2 tabulators. Both of those tabulator results were ran on either yellow or blue paper, depending on which tabulator was used. We keep them color coded so that we can keep things separate. Those results are taken off of a thumb drive off the tabulators, put into our hard coded laptop, which means it's not hooked to the internet or anything. And the laptop combines the results to get you these nice little reports. So that's where that report is coming from. There is a summary result report on the front, which is 1 of 3 pages. And then we have a 10-page, which is by the actual ballot style, or in this case, kind of our districts. This was a school and special district election, but our school election, they canvass them themselves. We do not canvass the school districts, they do that themselves. So today we're just doing the special districts. We have 2 fire districts. We have the Canyon Creek Fire and the Tri-Lakes Fire District. But you will see results on everything all the way through, so we can make sure that we account for all our voters. And of course, all of our ballots received. The last handout I gave to you was off of our database. This is the voter database, ElectMT, that is provided to the counties to use from the state of Montana. Come on in and please sign up. All right. So we're going to go through these 3 reports, and then I'm also going to go through the process again. We start out by sending our voters. This is a mail ballot election. So we started out by sending our voters ballots. They were able to return those ballots in an affirmation envelope down here at the bottom with their address. It would have told us what ballot style or district they lived in. During the primary, it may be a precinct. But in this election, they were either in, like for instance, HSO1 CCF was Helena High School District. 01 is the Helena School District, and CCF is Canyon Creek Fire. We also had K1209, that's the East Helena School District, K through 12, and it's the Tri-Lakes Fire. So those are the 2 main ones we'll be looking at today, but again, all of them are listed here. There's also the EL01, HSO1, Tri-Lakes Fire, TLF. So those are, again, the ones that we're mostly looking at, although you do want to see the numbers for everything because we have total numbers that we have to come up to.
Right.
So the individuals will be sending their ballots back in. They can either mail them or drop them off at our office. When those are dropped off, and I think East Helena also had a drop-off box, they normally do, and they would bring them to our office. We then sort them by what ballot style they are, so that we can keep track. We do it pairs of 20s, and then anything left over, we would mark that there's only 9 ballots maybe or something, or 9 affirmation envelopes. We have verifiers that make sure that the ballots are still, for our envelopes are still 20 envelopes to make sure that the number is matching whatever we said is in that batch. They're put in our system. They can scan a barcode to verify the signatures. When they scan that barcode, it brings up the voter's information. They can then see the voter's signature and verify the signatures to make sure those match. All along the process, we are making sure that if we started with 20 envelopes, we continue with those 20 envelopes, which of course would contain a ballot inside, hopefully. Hopefully somebody doesn't just mail us back instructions, but sometimes it happens. When they go to open the affirmation envelope, so we have separate people doing these processes to keep the voters' ballot secret and what they did. So the person that is scanning and watching their signature would never actually open and be able to tell what ballot they opened or whose that belonged to. At the secrecy opening, or the affirmation opening, excuse me, that would be our next step after we verify the signature and made sure that this ballot is something we could take and accept. If we were unsure of the signatures, we have a group of people, sometimes it's one depending on the election, that would be calling our voters or calling or
That's after it would have
After.
been checked by another set of eyes, but yeah, getting hold of the voter going, hey, we've had some issues with your signature here, come on by and we get it taken care of. Usually that involves us checking their ID, making sure they are who they say they are, and getting a signature update.
and that could be by phone or it could be by mail. We try various ways of contacting that voter to make sure that elector's election or vote counts. So at the opening of the affirmations, they will count the affirmation envelopes, make sure they have 20. They will also then count the secrecy envelopes that are inside that to make sure they have 20, and they will account for any differences. In this particular case, we did have one difference. The affirmation that was opened was completely empty. So that is accounted for here. We'll go over that. And then from that process, we have our secrecies. We combine those 20 little batches that we have into one big mail tray. They go down to our opening of our absentee or secrecy board, or sorry, mail-in at this in this election. Sometimes it's absentee for our primary. They will then verify that they have the right number of envelopes in that whole tray. They will then verify with the judge that they counted it correctly. If they did not count it correctly, the judge will not tell them what it is. They have to go back and recount. After they've counted it, they then pull the ballots out of the secrecy envelopes. They should count their secrecy or their ballots to make sure that whatever amount they had in secrecies is the same amount of ballots. Anything that they did not match up, if let's just say somebody sent back an empty secrecy or put their instruction on it, they would have to note on here and explain why there's a difference. We had 2 differences in this election, so we'll go over that too. Once they are done counting that, they are telling us how many ballots they accepted. A rejected ballot would be a ballot that they had returned that secrecy without a ballot in it or possibly had instructions in it or just was empty. So they would also note why they rejected. This form goes to the tabulator with the ballots flattened underneath it. They're unfolded. Then we run this through the tabulator. We have to match the amount of ballots that they said that they accepted. If they don't, we have to go research why. If we then, when we run them through the tabulator, there's a few reasons why they may get kicked out to a resolution board. If the ballot itself is marked unclearly and the tabulator cannot tell what the voter was trying to do, it will kick it out. If someone overvotes, so if they vote for 2 people instead of 1, it will also kick it out so that there's a pair of eyes looking at that. Just actually 2 sets of eyes looking at that to make sure that definitely it was an overvote, or we have the Secretary of State's election judge handbook to explain possible ways a voter may tell us that they really didn't mean to vote and which way we need to accept it. If that happens and It's not really an overvote, it's just the voter intent. Maybe they wrote us a note and said, I didn't mean this one, I meant to vote for this person. The ballot has to be transcribed and remade, or remade basically, and go ahead.
The thing that usually happens here is that when a voter's going through reading the option, they tend to rest their pen within the oval and then fill in the one oval that they do want. The tabulator is sensitive enough to pick up those pinpoints where they're sitting there reading the candidate name or the issue, and then compare it to the one that they voted on. So the tabulator is going, wait a minute, I think they may have tried to overvote on this. So when we look at it, we can tell based on this oval is completely filled in, whereas this one's just got a pen dot in it. Voter intent says that they wanted to do the one that was completely filled out. That's our biggest one that we usually see.
Okay.
Sometimes they fill out both ovals and put an X through one of them and say,
Yep,
that's not
we
what I
see
meant
that
to
too,
do.
yep.
So, we find that, and then the other time, that the tabulator will kick it out for a resolution board is if the ballot appears to be completely blank and no votes on it at all. Again, it's set aside for human eyes to look at it to make sure that, that is really a blank ballot. Those types of things go to a resolution board. At the tabulation side, we would be noting how many we sent to the resolution board. With that resolution board ballots that we are sending back, we would send back our purple form number 1. We would say how many ballots we were sending to them. We would give them those ballots, they would do what they needed to do, and when they return them to us, they would fill out a different purple form. We then match this purple form to make sure that what they bring back to us equaled what we gave them to begin with. So that's how we keep track of all our ballots. Again, everything is counted basically before the person, when it interacts from one set of people to another, it's counted to begin with and then counted before they hand it off to the next set, to the next group. So let's go through this and get through it timely. All right, so our first line on this is our registered voters. We had a total of 40,527 for this election. The Tri-Lakes Fire in the elementary and high school district was 978. And I'm going to skip over to the K-1209 for Tri-Lakes Fire was, again, that's our East Helena School District, was 2,468. And then our Canyon Creek Fire is in School District 1's high school. It's 273, yes.
Amy, you're rattling these off awfully quickly and I'm not.
We are on the top line here. So we're
Yes.
just going to go line by line on this.
Okay, so you're just going straight across.
Yes, the first one is the second column in, the EL01, HSO1, TLF, that's our Tri-Lakes Fire
Okay,
for the 978 total voters, registered voters. If you go over 2 columns, you have your HSO1 CCF, that is our Canyon Creek Fire District, and this is the high school one, 273. And then 2 more columns over is our K-1209 Tri-Lake Fire TLF of 2,468 voters. So these are the 3 columns that we are going to be looking at for this campus. Are you
Okay.
following me so far?
Yeah.
Great. All right, so then our next line down, and you can see our next section says elect MT. This again is what we're getting off of our database. So this is when they have taken this affirmation, scanned it, and accepted or rejected that person's signature or their affirmation envelope. So we're gonna go through that in this next section here.
Okay.
The total ballots issued for the whole county was the 40,527, but in the EL01, HSO1, TLF, which is your third column in, excuse me, is 978. Our high school 1 CCF, the 5th column over is 273, and then our K-1209 TLF, the last column before the very dark mark, is the 2,468. And you can see that the number of ballots that we issued equals the total number of our registered voters above. So line 1 and line 2 are matching.
Registered active voters.
So the third line down is the ones that were sent but not returned. So those are ballots that we mailed out to the electors in our county that the voter did not return to us. We don't know why they didn't return them. We don't know if they voted them. We don't know if they threw them away. We have no idea why they didn't vote, but they didn't vote. So we didn't get those returned to our office. The next set of lines is our process rejected area, and it's also the received area. So we'll go through the process rejected first. And that line is the total of the next 4 rejected lines. So there's different reasons that a ballot may get rejected. So, and when I say ballot, I mean that affirmation envelope. So if they do not sign it, we cannot accept it, although we will get a hold of the voter and ask for their signature. So if they do come in and vote and sign it, then we're able to accept it at that point. The next line down would be the signature did not match. Again, if the voter's signature didn't match, we'd be contacting them and just seeing why. Did they have some medical thing happening? Did they just stand up and write it on the way out the door? You know, what is going on with that? So they would have to come in and verify that that is their signature, or, and normally when that happens, they'll give us a new signature that we can
Yes,
put on file.
someone that this happened to in the 22 general election, because I was signing a bunch of documents for the polling places as the supervisor, my signature fell apart. So when I returned my absentee ballot in 22, staff told me, this isn't even close, Connor, like, what are you trying to do here? It's like, well, I gotta fill out paperwork then, don't I? Let's go. So filled out paperwork and then got my signature accepted, so my vote counted there.
The nice thing about that is if somebody has a medical issue, maybe a stroke or something, and their signature isn't the same as it used to be, you know, however many years ago, that form is then scanned into our system and that signature is there, now there, and for record for next time.
So the elections office now has my fallen piece of signature as well as nicer signatures.
All right, the last one is, or the third one down, the late for election. Those are for ballots that have come back to us after the close of election. Again, your ballots are due by 8:00 p.m. on election day. So by Montana law, we cannot accept any of those other ballots that are coming through. We do keep them. They are part of our retention process. We do account for them. We're just not able to actually count the vote.
And the voter does receive a letter from us saying, hey, we received your ballot after the election. So unfortunately, it was not counted.
And then
As we're
the
aware.
last thing there is others. So that's just a, on this one, I just have to cheat a little bit here. On my other one here, we had just a few, that was an error while, and it's a weird thing on here. It actually shows up as under the column P. 8 of those is because of, I can't remember what they explained it as. Cece had mentioned that it has something to do with us basically trying to issue the wrong ballot to the individual, the wrong ballot style. So that's just kind of hanging out there. And then I can't remember the other two that were off, but I see it was NK-1209 and I'm not sure probably what happened. But one was there, one wasn't.
I remember, yeah.
There's ways we sort the spreadsheet, and it's one of those that it just didn't fall in the other rejected reasons. So as you can see, we have a total of 796 for our whole election that were rejected. Out of those, 26 were for signatures that they didn't sign at all. 79 for the signatures not matching, and then that late for election was 689. So then when we get to our columns, the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th column in here that has the TLF, being our Tri-Lakes Fire, our Canyon Creek Fire, and then again our Tri-Lakes Fire, you can see those numbers go down. We had a total of 30 rejected in our EL01, HSO1, TLF, and most of those were late for election. You can see 27 of them were late for the election, and 3 signatures did not match. When we go to our high school HSO1 CCF column, you'll see that 2 of them were rejected, and at the bottom, 2 of those were late for our election. Our K-1209 TLF, you can see 52 total were rejected, 2 for no signature, 6 did not match, and 43 were late, and then 1 was under the other column. We do try to get our voters to bring their ballots in to us if it's a week before the election and not mail them. Some of these get mailed, thrown in the post office, and you know, some of that stuff makes it to Great Falls where it makes it back to us. So we can't control that. So we do really encourage people to get those ballots to us by hand delivery if it's running close to election time.
And to try and catch more that may not have gotten the memo and have just put it in their mailbox or one of the blue drop boxes for the post office, we do make a special run to the post office about 6 p.m. on election night to get everything that they've pulled out during the day. Now, unfortunately, that's not always everything. Sometimes it's not a whole lot, unfortunately, as well. But they are supposed to be keeping an eye out for everything, because every time I see trays of these things come back after the election, it's like, oh my goodness gracious, we were so close, but not quite. So here we are.
The next column down is our canceled or voided ballots. We have a total of 526 in the third column, the ELO1, HSO1, TLF, we have 9. Over at the HSO1 CCF, we have 3, and then the K1209 TLF, we had 18. So the canceled and voided can be a couple of things. You can have a voided ballot because the voter has moved away and is no longer in our district, or the ballot style that's listed in our thing. They could have moved out of our county. The other times is if we have to void and reissue. So it would also be listed as a void reissued. And then a canceled voter, or a canceled ballot, I should say.
Canceled ballot is usually going to be, if I remember correctly, a deceased voter. Cancel and void are unfortunately used interchangeably within the system. We've tried to get SOS to nail down that language and be specific with everything, but here we are. Yeah, is what it is, unfortunately.
So this is, again, we're using elect MT. We used to be using MT votes. So this is a newer system to us, and we haven't ran a primary in this system before. So trying to get through these little bugs on what they actually call things. And again, like our report here where it just has little letters, I had to call them and say, what do these letters mean? So
Legend at the top and the legend is blank. Yes, we have
yeah.
a long laundry list of items with SOS, unfortunately.
So we also have our undeliverable ballots. That is the next line down. That's 1,456. Again, in the ELO1, HSO1, TLF Tri-Lakes Fire is 17. In our HSO1 Canyon Creek Fires, the CCF is 10, and the K1209 TLF is 77. The undeliverables are going to be just that. The post office has said they are undeliverable. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, we do try to reach out to those voters as well. They're required to get a letter by law that's a forward service stating, hey, your ballot was returned to us as undeliverable. Usually if they receive that in time, they'll fill that out. We'll get the new information and then re-mail their ballot. Sometimes, especially during federal elections, they'll come in person and go, hey, where's my ballot? It's like, oh, well, we got it back as undeliverable. And sometimes there's no clear reason why it's undeliverable. Something else we continue to work with the post office on, but other times there is a clear reason why it's undeliverable. Sometimes it's no mail receptacle, sometimes the address doesn't exist, sometimes there's a typo in the address and that's on our side because we goofed. Things happen, so.
All right. And then the last one on the section for the elect MT counts is our process and accepted. We accepted a total of 20,680, which is just over 50% of our total ballots issued. In our Tri-Lake Fire, the very third column, we have 538 that were processed and accepted. In our HSO1 CCF, our Canyon Creek was 143. And then our K1209 TLF was 1,196. All right, so does anybody have any questions on those before I go in any further?
Questions?
Okay, so this area is what they had scanned on the affirmation envelope, and it's going off of the barcode off the system and saying this belongs to this particular district. We did have a little bit of a difference between this process and accepted column and the total affirmation envelopes column. Even though our grand total was the same, the first 3 columns, there was kind of a swap in there of 4 total. You'll see that when you look at the process and accepted under the TLF, the ELO1 HSO1 TLF, it was 538, but just below that in our election judge counts, you have 535. So there's a couple of reasons that could have happened. And I'm not going to guess which one it is, but one of the things can happen is that they took the envelope and stuffed it in the wrong tray. That it really wasn't the ELO1 HSO1, it really belonged in another one. The other problem it could be, or the other option it could be, is that the wrong ballot was stuffed into that particular affirmation envelope when we sent it to when we sent it to the voters. Not exactly sure which one it was on those errors, but we have, an error there, and it's a human error. We deal with a lot of ballots downstairs and a lot of different people touching those ballots. So yeah, it's very busy down there. So the next section is basically what our judges, our election staff dealt with. They took those affirmation envelopes, they counted them, and they came up with that 535 in that district. Again, they're counting them, they're putting them in trays, so human error could be that they had the envelope wrong. We're not sure exactly. And we had that 535 in ELO1, HSO1, TLF. The HSO1 CCF, it did match. It was 143, excuse me, just like above 143. And then same with the K1209 TLF, it matched perfectly the 1,196. Below that is, again, through that opening of the affirmation envelopes and pulling out those secrecy envelopes. The first column is, the second column, the ELO1, HSO1 is where we had that one empty affirmation envelope. So that did not affect any of our fire districts. So those numbers are staying the same. Below that is our total secrecy envelopes for opening. So again, that is a different group that is opening those secrecies and flattening those ballots and double checking to make sure our ballots were the same. We had 2 of those, but again, they were in ELO1, HSO1, where they had sent us the instructions back instead of their ballot. So that again, it did not affect any of our fire districts. So at the bottom of this area, the total accepted for counting by the tabulator, it matched as we flowed through. There is a difference of 9, and it's in ELO1, HSO1, sorry. And there's 1 difference in the ELO1, HSO1, TLF. And the HSO1 CCF is the same, and same with our last K1209 TLF. Those also are accounted for, and we had, when we opened the secrecies and we had the ballots, when they run through the tabulator, it's by the ballot style. So anything that doesn't belong in there, if it was a different district, it would kick that out and go to the resolution board, and that's where we found those differences. All right, and then the very last part is what was counted on the tabulator. So we have a total ballots cast. As you can see, as we go down in our totals, the accepted for counting was the 20,677 countywide, and that's the total ballots cast that the tabulators counted. In our ELO1, HSO1, we had received the 537 to process through the tabulators from our hand judges. And then we had, in our HSO1 CCF, we still had that 143 that we've been working with all the way through. And our K1209 TLF, we still had that 1,196 that we've been working all the way through the process. Again, we had some differences in our ELO1 HSO1s. We have 4 different districts for school district 1. Some were just elementary and high school, some were just high school, and then some were high school with a fire, and some were elementary and high school with a fire. So there was a mix up somewhere in there. We're just not quite sure why. When you're reading that off of the envelope, you can see that with it being ELO1, HSO1, and then something after where they could accidentally put it in the wrong tray. So we had a total of a few ballots that were blank, but none of the fire districts were actually had any blank ballots turned in. So don't need to really go over that. And then our voter turnout at the bottom, you'll see total for the county was 51.02%. And then there's individual percentages depending on which district they lived in. The ELO1, HSO1 Tri-Lake Fire was 54.91%. The high school 1 Canyon Creek Fire was 52.38%. And our K1209 TLF was 48.46%. So you can see we had a really good turnout this year. Normally we are much lower, I would say closer to 30 to 40%.
40, yep.
So we saw a really good turnout this year. There were 5 levies on our school district 1 ballot and 1 levy, I think, on our school district 9 ballot, Helena versus East Helena, sorry. So I think that drew a lot of people into voting this time. And then we also, of course, had our trustees. So most of the difference I talked about are on this last page, and some of them don't affect the fire. Again, it just affected school district 1, but we still list all of our differences and why, so that we can track it. So what we normally do with our canvas is every form that is filled out, the green, the purple, the light purple, as they're doing their reconciliation of the affirmations, and they're saying how many was there, all of those are put into a spreadsheet. And we're tracking by the ballot style to make sure that everything is accounted for. Which is why I have that big box over there and I have this box here. Do you have any questions of me or Connor?
Any questions? Just a comment, it's a good turnout. But you can see if people are really, really paying attention and make sure they get their stuff in on time and all of that, you can have a better turnout. There's quite a few ballots that we're not able to count because they, we're guided by state law and rules, whether it's a signature or a
Postmark.
late
Yes.
ballot or postmark, those kinds of things they have. You have to have them in on time, so it makes a difference. Likely.
Yes,
Good.
and we had a very close race in our Canyon Creek fire this time. I didn't go over this with you, but when you go over the very beginning here, the first page, you will see that the number of voters match the number of voters here. And then below that, the number of votes at the very bottom here, sorry, in the first column, you'll see that matches also. And of course, our total blank ballots match too. So when we go to the, I'm gonna flip to our second report here and look at our Canyon Creek fire, because I know most of the people in the audience actually are here for our Canyon Creek fire. We had, so Ellen had 70 votes, Maxwell had 80, and Barbara had 69. So there's actually between our second and third trustee position, there's only 2 available. There's only 1 vote, so you can see why every vote counts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know a lot of people don't look at it that, oh, I forgot to vote, or, my vote's not gonna count. No, it does count. Every vote counts.
What is the regulation on how close it has to be?
If it were a tie, we would be doing a recount today, since it was, and it's automatic. It was not a tie. So they used to be within 0.5%
I have it up
for
on
a
my phone. I'll just
recount.
read it verbatim.
Great.
So conditions under which a recount to be conducted, 13-16-201. I'm reading it verbatim because the legislature changed it at the last session. Candidate for precinct office or for county, municipal, or district office. This is district office, specifically Canyon Creek Fire District. Voted for in only 1 county is defeated if they're defeated by a margin not exceeding 0.25% of the total votes cast, or by a margin not exceeding 10 votes. I think we sit in both of those on this one in particular, but whichever of those is greater, the defeated candidate within 5 days after the official canvass files with the election administrator a verified petition stating that the candidate believes a recount will change the result and that a recount of the votes for office or nomination should be conducted. So in other words, 5 days from now, which I believe by my math leads us to Tuesday with the Memorial Day weekend, Monday not counting, but Saturday technically counting. It's a weird time frame to be in with elections because Saturday seems to count on a lot of things. It's weird, don't ask me why. Statute's funky that way. I think that's in like section or Title 1 or whatever that governs what days count in statute. Since Barbara Nye was the losing candidate here, she has until 5 p.m. Tuesday to get us a petition asking for a recount. In which case, we then put that recount together, get elections judges here to help us out, go through however many ballots it is, looks like 228.
Oh.
Yeah, 228. Or no, 143, sorry. It was a vote for up to 2. So that's not a direct one-to-one correlation, sorry. 143 ballots cast, with the potential to vote for up to 2 trustees there. And recount the results by hand and see how that comes out.
And our recount board is the county commissioners.
Yes, the recount board is the county commissioners, unless one of you has to be absent for something, in which case let me know sooner rather than later so I can get a substitute.
143 would not be a
Wouldn't take
large
very long.
recount. It would not take that long. So it'd be something that we, I think, could probably do without having to get a bunch of election judges in.
Yeah.
And in that case, you would just count for the one individual race, right?
Indeed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And they actually have their own ballot style, so it makes it quite easy.
Yep, we just have to pull out all the HSO1 CCFs and we'd be ready to go.
Gotcha. Okay. Other questions, commissioners? Okay, anything else?
I have nothing further.
How about before we go any further, public comment? Is there a public comment? If we do have public comment, We need your name and
My name is Max Eskelson. I'm ran for trustee there in Canyon Creek. Um, as you're all well aware, Canyon Creek is a mess with trustees and resignations and et ceteras, et ceteras. Barb and I resigned that seat 2 months before the 7th of May. She wanted to pull from the election, but couldn't because she was past her date. And in her resignation letter, I have the letter here on my phone, that says if she is elected, there is a way, she hopes that there is a way for her to get out of it. She doesn't want to be, according to this, her resignation letter, does not want to be a trustee. So I'm not really sure what I understand the legal process. She has 5 days and can do it. It just kind of prolongs our whole agony out there. We're trying to get things done and we can't because we don't have trustees on the board to be able to do anything. So just my comment.
We do
Thank you,
totally
Eric.
understand.
Yep.
We are in the same boat ourselves because we have a primary election and we can't get rid of those ballots until,
Yeah, we
until
can't
we know
store
whether
them
we're having
until we know
a
whether the
recount.
recount's
So
happening.
we are juggling, moving things around right now just to make sure that we can get stuff ready for the primary and yet still have the ability if we need to do a recount. If it's called
My
for by
public
law.
comment is Richard Grady, Vice Chair. Last night we had a board meeting, we had a quorum met. We are moving forward. I've been involved in this since the resignation of March 7th for the last 3 months. We are moving forward. We had a board meeting last night with the legal counsel. Nico yesterday sent everybody that the Corey D is acting until the election results are completed. She was appointed by you to replace Barbara Nye. James Thomas is interim president for 1 year per year appointment, replacing, along with Wendy Adams, replace the 2 people, Kai Bear and Joan Bear. So we are moving forward. We moved last night the regular meeting. It was a good meeting, in my opinion. We are making decisions, but we have a lot of decisions that last night had to be tabled because clear understanding of finances, clear understanding of budget, and Wendy's here. She's doing a great job with the budget, working with Amy. I want to recognize Amy, Connor, Nico, and the county commissioners for what you're doing to help the Canyon Creek Rural Fire District. The community is engaged. There was a good attendance last night from the people, so we are moving forward. But there are a lot of decisions that still have to be made once you, and I appreciate being here, understand the canvas process. It's important. And so we understand the canvas process. The people in the community understand the process and realize we've got a 1.1 vote difference. And I greatly understand what you went through. The question I have, and again, I don't know if you can answer this, that Max does have the majority, but I understand that Max still cannot be officially recognized till you complete the process. I understand that. So I just want you to know that being involved in this last 3 months, it's a lot of community involvement, a lot of community support. We're making progress and we're going to move forward. So thank you for what you've been helping us with. Thank you.
thank you for your comment. Any other public comment?
Yes, I'd like to comment. Wendy Adamson, I'm interim treasurer there. And I actually concur with Rick. I think that what I walked into with kind of nothing there, to the last couple meetings, we've actually done quite a bit of good. And I think the only exception I'd say with what he said is he said we have to table. I think we chose to table a few things so that we could make sure that we were making the decision with the new board, with our new budget. And so I think that it felt like forward progress the whole time. So I'm grateful to still be able to be a part of it.
Thank you for your comment. Appreciate it. Okay, any other public? Other public comment? Okay. Next, what do we need to do?
And then
Good,
originally, so you have
do you have any
your
questions?
Last minute questions.
So I'll ask a question again.
Sure.
So if a candidate, me, for example, I ran for an office, I was elected, and then I decided I changed my mind after the election. If I resign that seat, then there's a process there as well, right?
Yeah, so this one was kind of interesting with Barbara. So in the case of Canyon Creek, for special districts, for all elections, there's a specific candidate filing and candidate withdrawal period. They coincide with one another. And the special districts usually run from about mid-December to, I believe, about the end of February, including write-in candidates opening as well. And then, of course, with the resignations occurring in March, that puts us outside the candidate withdrawal period. So while we didn't physically have the ballots in hand yet, we hadn't even put the order together because the school district was still in candidate filing mode. Statute prevented us from being able to cancel the Canyon Creek fire election and declare those two candidates elected by acclamation, simply because the withdrawal period had already expired. Checked with Nico on that, hoping to try and save our special districts a little bit of cash, but unfortunately, there was no way around that. Statute is statute, so here we are. It is up to the candidate to decide whether they want to file a petition for a recount. Since we are within the, I believe it is 1% is what I just stated. It's only a petition that needs to be filed. If it were further beyond that, I believe from maybe it's 1% whatever the new marker is. If it were beyond that marker to, I think it's either 1/2 or 1% the candidate would also have to post bond to pay for the recount. But we are well within that initial margin, so just waiting to see if the petition shows up. It may or may not. I don't know. I cannot claim to know what's in the candidate's mind, unfortunately. We're just as in the dark as everyone else. So seldom does it come down to literally one vote and one person trying to decide what they want to proceed with in democracy, and yet here we are.
Okay.
And if it was over either of those two percentages, which again, they've changed the law recently, so that's why we're a little bit rusty on it.
Yeah.
The candidate, if there was a far enough gap, they wouldn't be even able to have a recount because the gap was too far.
Yeah. So we're not seeing Montana, thankfully, by this statute doesn't allow, I'll call them political recounts. That's my own wording, where you've got a 30,000 vote difference between like a state senator and another state senator for the state legislature in like larger states, for example. And one of them will go, yeah, I want to recount because, you know, it's my right to have a recount, or I want to make a campaign statement by having this recount. Montana sets very stringent lines on how recounts are done, when they are done, and who does them essentially. So I'm very happy for that. Personally, helps the elections office be a little bit more cognizant of the public's time and money, but then also occasionally puts us in situations like this where we're just kind of waiting on one person.
Okay, thank you. All right, next step.
I think at this point, if you don't have any more questions, our next step would be if you guys agree to accept the campus, if we're ready to go.
Commissioners, any questions, comments? Ready to move forward? Okay, thank you. I'm ready to move forward.
We have our official canvas form here to be signed.
Yep.
So I'll let you guys sign it and I can test it. Each of those certificates. And you're over there with the 3 blanks.
Yep, board canvassers on the left-hand side.
So do you want me to pass all of them?
Yeah, pass
right now?
those in as well, because
Okay.
those need to be signed.
We're just gonna have you guys sign your lives away.
Okay,
So
bring
we
them on
have our
down.
certificates, it looks like, so I'll have you start, and then, yeah, you can just sign on the 3 lines there.
Pass them around.
Go back to you, Tom, there in just a second. Back in there, so don't lose anything.
Thank you. Pass them back. I can probably reach.
This
them
is each batch of 20. It's a lot of paper.
With 20,000 change, that's at least 1,000 batches of 20.
Mhm.
Yeah. Our undeliverable batches that we process those letters with.
This says public comment at the end and you're ready.
Okay, we've taken it, but any further public comment? Any further public comment?
Just for the record, maybe have a vote to show
Sure.
essentially what we just did by signing the canvas, you know, the certificate.
Thank you very much. So commissioners, we have a motion and a second to adopt the canvas or the election results and affirm the canvas.
So moved.
Second.
Really second to adopt the election results and affirm the canvas has been presented to us. Further discussion, commissioners. Thank you very much for your work, both of you. Appreciate that.
It's a complicated, you would think, how hard can it be? But I look at these and I think this is a big deal, and this is, can you imagine trying to do this in New York City or Denver or someplace? I mean, this is our little county.
I count my lucky stars.
And it's just, I'm so glad we could do this in
Next
an
one will
order.
be a little more complicated.
May I be recognized again? I'm
I'm sorry, we're right in the middle of the vote. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying
Aye.
aye. Thank you very much. Now, if there's
Okay.
further
Thank you.
public
I had the opportunity to work with the election staff on this election, and I did come from one of those big cities, and I couldn't imagine what it was like. And I felt just the neat opportunity to not only do this, but to see the process up close and all the checks and balances. And for full disclosure, nobody let me come anywhere near the Canyon Creek tray. Like everybody knows that I was not allowed to touch that tray. But there was an awful lot of other trays to have to work. So I enjoyed it a lot. I pulled an all-nighter with the staff. My husband will not let me do that again. But I had a great time. And so it's nice to see all the checks and balances and have it explained. I just nodding along. Yep. It's everything we had to do. So I enjoyed myself and just wanted to thank the staff as well for the opportunity even.
Thank you for that comment. It's good. Yes.
And thank you for helping out.
Yes.
We are always looking for help, so. it's
Always
very
looking
nice
for
to
more
know.
elections judges.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you all for listening. And thanks for coming today. Thank you. All right, we will, without any further comment from the canvassing board here, we'll stand adjourned. Oh, we did. We've got 3 times. We're good. We're
Thanks
adjourned.
for